Hey, and welcome to the TotallyHooked.net podcast. This is Frank Howard, your host, and today we've got a wonderful podcast set up. We're going to go through all our thank yous, the word of the day, and today we're just going to focus on a lot of the innovative and interesting articles that have been coming out, and just kind of, this is going to be a really low-key podcast and a lot of value and a lot of learning, so get ready. Here comes the music. Isn't that great? As I'm growing and evolving and making this podcast much, much better, I'm able to do things now like just play music and do it live. We're doing it live. We're doing this podcast live. So now that I've been warmed up a little bit, I want to start off with by expressing my sincere and honest gratitude to everybody who's on my VIP list. And by VIP list, I mean anybody who's gone to the Totally Hooked podcast Facebook page and who has liked my Facebook page. I want to give a shout out to, Cecilia De Fuentes, Michil Maibel, Nika Pegas, Almar Lowery, Aluyimi Alanite, Adela Calderon, T.T. Richardson, and Civil Centrum. Thank you for liking the Totally Hooked podcast. If you want to like the podcast and get a shout out, just on your Facebook page, type in Totally Hooked podcast, and then you will see my podcast, and all you have to do is click like on the page, and then I'll read your name out there. I have not completely gone through all my emails yet. I received like 4 emails probably from different podcasts, if I had to guess, and I'm going to approach those. But I really wanted to just go ahead and get started recording another podcast because, I don't know, I feel like I've been wanting to do some more podcasting itself. Just a second. I got to be honest, I guess I should have known, studying business and everything, podcasting, it requires more. You all think it's all just fun and games. Everybody thinks it's just all fun and games. You guys think it's just a party, huh? I think it's a party. Maybe it's a party. Maybe I'm taking it too seriously. What I noticed is, so I'm just I love recording episodes. And now that I've figured out my workflow, I can almost instantaneously record an episode and have it ready probably within 20 minutes and get it out to the masses. That's how fast it is. I got a mixer. I got my mixer and my compressor. I got everything set up. I've got this completely set up in a really good way. All that being said, the hard part, I think, is growing the audience and getting more listeners. So just like any business, it's organic. It takes time. And what I'm committed to, since I've already got a base, a core group of listeners, what I'm hoping to do over time is continue releasing. I'm hoping actually twice a week. They say what you should do if you're doing a 1-hour show, once a week is enough. I've found I don't feel like once a week is enough. I feel like twice a week at least. I actually would like to do several more podcasts, but I think twice a week would be good. I know that a lot of people listen to it on their way to work or on their way coming back from work, and that's terrific. Some people possibly listen to these podcasts not only while they're at work, but also when they're, not only while they're driving, but also when they're at work. So I want to be able to reach out to everybody and continually provide amazingly great content, or sometimes not the best content. I don't know. What I mean by not the best content is it takes some time and research. Like when I've done my book reviews and stuff like that, that takes some time and research. I'm making this microphone a little more comfortable. Now I'm sitting back. That is a lot easier to do, but to just kind of off the cuff talk about things in it reminds me of this book I read by Stephen Pressfield called The War of Art. Not the art of war, but it's the war of art. And he talks about this idea of resistance. My first episode, I just recorded it on an iPhone. Like I literally just took out my iPhone and recorded it, and it just seemed so cool because I remember the first 3 minutes seemed so awkward, and then after 3 minutes it got easier and got easier because when I'm talking to other people, it's a different environment. There's more people talking and a lot more stuff's happening with the podcast. It feels like my voice is just kind of strange. I'm going to lower this back down to 50. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Yeah, so, welcome to the podcast. I was, just thinking about a few different things about ways to do a better podcast. It seems like my breathing is just weird. I'm going to change the EQ a little bit. Okay, how does this sound? Let's see how this sounds. Does that sound a little bit better? I'm going to lower the high. There we go. Yeah. Still learning, still growing. We're 15 episodes in. I think the quality is now basically professional level when you consider the workflow and everything. But blah, 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 blah. Let's go to the word of the day. Today's word of the day is deflagrate. I thought it was deflate, all this deflate talk, but it's deflagrate. What does deflagrate mean, you ask? I'll tell you what deflagrate means. Deflagrate means to burn rapidly with intense heat and sparks being given off. Definition 1. Definition 2, to cause to burn in such a manner. So here's some examples. The city has banned fireworks and similar devices that deflagrate when lit. So they burn intense heat very quickly. It wasn't a pipe bomb, it was a destructive device, Klaus said. It was poorly constructed and it actually just deflagrated. It didn't explode. It just burnt at a rapid rate. So that's deflagrate, burning at a rapid rate. Was it Kurt Cobain that they talked about when he didn't want to go down as a... he didn't want to be a candle that just burnt out. He wanted to deflagrate. I don't know. It's interesting. I've been listening to a lot of like 90s grunge lately. I grew up listening to 90s grunge. That was the thing that was cool when I was growing up. So naturally, the 20-year cycle, it's hard to believe that like that was 20 years ago. It was hard to believe that when Kurt Cobain died, he was 27. I mean, I was a teenager for the most part listening to Nirvana, and I remember thinking, gosh, 27 seems so old. He looked so mature and intelligent, and now when I look back at, I'm only 32 right now, but 27 still seems pretty young to me. 32 in my mind still seems young, and maybe it's because of the crowd I hang out with. I tend to gravitate and hang out. My mentors, for the most part, are older than me. There's not a lot of people that are younger than me. I've always kind of been the young guy. When I was in the Air Force, I was always the young guy, and I just naturally gravitate towards people like that because I'm like I said in several podcasts. I think it's really important to surround yourself with people that are 5 or 10 years beyond where you are, and where you want to go and where you want to be. The natural thing to do is the opposite. What I think a lot of people want to do is they want to surround themselves with people that they think are lower. Lower is not the right word, but people want to surround themselves with people they feel comfortable with. And that tends to be people that they feel like they're kind of above, I guess. I don't know. But it's an interesting thought. And it brings up this interesting quote by Anne Frank. I went ahead and took the quote of the day, too. So today's quote of the day is, "Whoever is happy will make others happy, too." Oh, gosh, isn't that so true? Whoever is happy will make others happy, too. You got to just shine the light. You have to shine the light that will shine on other people. It's just interesting how that works, right? Like happy, what is happy? What is happiness? Is it just this, are these chemicals, are these neurons in my brain? Don't they have like a way, it all comes down to the chemicals in your brain, some people would say. I think when I think about happy, I'm talking about that long-term kind of happiness. You guys know what I'm talking about. Does everyone understand the difference between, there's that morning caffeine rush form of happy where you're just like totally jolted up and you're excited. There's that wedding day kind of happy where it's a life-changing thing that's happening. But there's also just that long-term sense of happiness. And it's something that's a conscious choice. And people that I think it takes years to get to the level where you're just radiating with joy, where your temperament on most days is 80% happy and then 20% all the same shit that everybody else deals with. And it's just a good question. Where are you right now? Are you, at that happy phase, or are you kind of in the winter phase? I know right now, today in the Washington, D.C. area, we're getting just frigid weather out here. It is like, I got an energy drink the other day, Saturday, and I just put that thing out and I was like, it was kind of warm. It wasn't warm, but I wanted a nice cold drink. So I just put it outside for less than an hour. Like half an hour later, there was ice on it. It had already turned into ice, which was ridiculous. Okay. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. We're going to talk about impact. We're going to talk about impact and years of experience. My federal friends, my government friends, my government contracting friends, how many times have you been in the D.C. area talking to someone and they're like, well, I've been here for 20 years, therefore I know I can just say whatever I want. I've been in this job for 5 years, therefore X, Y, Z. I remember one time somebody told me that, and I was thinking, man, the technology you're talking about was invented like 3 years ago. So that 10 years, there's a difference between the impact and years of experience, I guess is my point. And I put this joke out there, and it got a lot of likes on my Facebook page. I put out this joke that, because I've been on Facebook for over 10 years, and there's a lot of people that I work with, they care, they're always going on and on about the 10 years. I was like, so now that I've been on Facebook for over 10 years, does that mean I can bully all the people who've been around less time than I have? Get it? I mean, how many times have you been bullied by someone who's in the federal workforce? He's like, I've been around, I've been doing this for 10 years. Therefore I can say I know this. I don't know. I think the impact speaks for itself. If you have to justify your opinions or your thoughts based on years of experience, and and you can tell the difference too. The people that has spent those years, sometimes it's just an afterthought. They'll say it after, like not in terms of if they actually have the competency that backs up the claims, that's okay. That's fine. It gives people a sense for where they are. But to just make that claim and assume that 20 years, I mean, what kind of 20 years are we talking about? Was it 20 years of climbing the mountain, constantly evolving, constantly pushing yourself to the peak limits? Or was it 20 years of, I'm just counting the days to retirement. I'm just going to come here and collect a paycheck. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to make a difference. I'm just collecting a paycheck. There's a difference. There's a difference between the impact and your years of experience, which is why I can now reveal, I'm looking at this interesting article I saw on LinkedIn. it's you know how LinkedIn is. They I think of all the blogs or whatever, LinkedIn always has the really clever ways of getting your attention, because they write these headlines that are clickbait, if you will. And this particular article says, Big Brother is now determining your hireability. So with all this big data stuff going on, I know in 2013 it really started to take off, this idea that companies like Amazon, Facebook, they had their warehouses of data. And from a marketing perspective, data is really important. Facebook, I mean, if Amazon knows the spending behavior of thousands of people, they're gonna be ahead of the game. They're gonna know about products and services before people even want them. I think that's why you see like Amazon's recent products that they release. They see the sales that are happening. They understand the behavior of people, and they know, it gives them a sense, algorithmically, what is coming next. That's just generally speaking about the data thing. And then there was a lot of articles for a while, like data scientists are the new whatever, I guess what coding was back in the 2000s or the 90s. There's going to be entire growth areas in the information technology industry where you have people that take large amounts of data, they analyze that data, and they put out a product that helps decisions maker make decisions. That just reminds me of just like what an English major does, just to be completely honest. We can call it science, but like whether you're studying English, whether you're doing medieval studies, everybody can do better by understanding how to take information, understand it, formulate ideas and analysis, and put together something so that other people can make decisions. And that's just a really important skill to have. So it's this article saying Big Brother is now determining your hireability. And what it talks about is like you have your Facebook page, your LinkedIn profile, you've got all these posts that you've done. And I guess there's going to be a time where they're already coming out with data points to predict whether or not you'd be a successful candidate. I feel like we've already kind of been seeing a lot of this. It seems now employers are using data more and more to determine who's most qualified for positions. I know in like project management, it's really important. At some point, it's no longer just, are you a good worker? You need to have a proven track record of taking, a project, making and having an impact on it, and then finishing the project. And everything is a project in a way. But, it's interesting, the kind of predictive analytics that they're talking about in this post. And I guess he says, he gives these examples of how to spot the achiever pattern. Predictive analytics, one hire at a time. One of the things he says is lower turnover. You want to have too many people change jobs for short-term reasons, resulting in a string of lateral transfers. Back in 2007, before I switched over to before I became a federal worker, I was a contractor. And what I would do is, while I was at the top of my game in one company, I would be applying so that I could have gainful employment in other companies. And it actually worked, and I was able to leverage myself. I've heard, I can't speak to this too well, but I've heard now it's becoming very competitive and very difficult to kind of ride that ladder, to quickly switch companies, to get a higher salary and stuff like that. And I've even heard people say that there's contracts that they sign. They say, I'm not going to jump ship for like 2 years or 3 years or something. I really don't know. I mean, I can't speak to that. But what I was doing before was I was always looking for the next thing to apply to and to go forward with. And I'm guessing somehow with these predictive analytics, they figured out a way to weed out and find the kinds of workers that aren't going to quickly jump ship to other jobs. It's probably a good thing because you do, as an employer, if you're hiring somebody, you obviously want lower turnover. You don't want people to be jumping ship, especially if you got like a new contract or something like that. We're seeing a lot of that right now. There's a lot of contracts in this area are being reevaluated, and new hires are coming in, and everybody wants to. The workers they have their best interest, and the employers have their best interest as well. And it's just interesting. I think I'm always kind of looking towards data and the internet and the rise of the internet as a positive in terms of competition. I can only see it adding competition. I could see the benefit there of having lower turnover. So this, going back to what I was talking about before, there's a difference between years of experience and what your actual impact is. And it's the quality of your years of experience are what's important, not the quantity of the years of experience. It goes back to what I was saying. 20 years just coming and going and, kind of nodding your head and flying under the radar versus 20 years of, I don't know, like let's say you're in sales and then your first year you have a 30% increase versus the person that was there before. And then the following year you have 60% and you're just constantly growing versus somebody who's not growing. That's kind of the difference between that's what we're talking about here. Just sitting there just coming in and doing your job, or constantly growing, constantly improving. That's just the nature of the current environment. And let's see. Volunteered or assigned to important projects or cross-functional teams very soon after starting. I can definitely speak to that. I mean, before I landed in the position I'm in now, they always said you got to I always just heard this advice. You want to dress for the next position or whatever, or do the work for the next position. So if you're in the federal government and let's say, you're a GS9, you need to be doing GS12 work. If you're a 12, you need to be doing 13 work. Just always be doing beyond. And the way to do that, because you're not going to be given a lot of times if you're in those lower positions, you won't be just naturally handed the baton of leadership, if you understand what I'm saying. You have to actually find and actively seek those important projects through volunteering. You need the volunteering thing. A lot of people might know I went to the University of Tennessee for undergraduate. I was a Tennessee volunteer, and probably one of the best things I got from Tennessee was the volunteer spirit. The Tennessee volunteers, I remember I volunteered for a lot of projects when I was an undergraduate, and I just volunteered for a whole lot of things. And what I learned is every time I volunteered for something and I took myself out of my comfort zone, I got a lot of value out of that. I was able to use those experiences in ways that I wouldn't have if I would have just shown up to class. You know what I mean? So I kept that habit in my professional career. And when it came for me to get evaluated, those extra volunteering activities were very helpful in determining my rating. And even more importantly than that, those volunteering activities were able to go on my resume. We got to be careful about the resume thing. Gosh, there was a few years there. Gosh, I took the volunteering thing to ridiculous levels. I was volunteering for so many things. I was just like volunteering all the time. And people were like, this is going to look good on your resume. This is going to look good on your resume. I got sick of hearing it after a while. I want to say there's even things, I'd volunteered so much. There were things that I think that just kind of got swept under the rug and didn't even land on the resume, because you really just want to focus on those big wins that are important. People don't want a 15-page thesis of all the shit you've done. They don't care. They don't have time. It's not very efficient. It kind of shows a little bit of incompetence too. If you've only got 10 years of experience and you've got 15 pages written, it shows that you can't take all that complexity and whittle it down to the key ingredients that are related with whatever the job posting is. That's just my take on it. There's a lot of different takes. That's just how I see things. But volunteering, or it's interesting that this data analytics, though, is getting important projects very soon after starting. I think that's actually pretty important, because that's that entrepreneur mentality. Entrepreneurs, if you notice, just generally as a whole, they're all about action, taking immediate action. So I guess analytically, this data that's underway is getting better at determining the kinds of people who quickly take new projects and go roll with them. Because we've talked about this before, people who are risk averse, that's actually to a detriment in a lot of ways. If you're too risk averse to new technologies and things that are coming, you're going to have trouble, because you'll have to eventually get over it. And if it takes 3 years for you to finally figure things out, more power to you, but you're not going to be moving. We're talking about the difference between the top people and the people that just the average people. And I'm just assuming that the people listening here are the top people. Okay, we've already done half an hour. Holy cow. Well, we've done 27 minutes. We've done 27 minutes. And let's see what the next thing on this data, I don't know, this big data stuff's interesting to me. Confirming credibility. So I'm assuming that if you're I'm first hoping that everybody's being authentic about their resumes online, but in the future, it's going to be easier for them to confirm whether or not what you're saying is true, and whether it's confirming credibility. So rehired and rehires, that's another analytic. Being hired by a former coworker is a good indicator of performance and reliability, and hiring a former coworker is a good indicator of strong management skills. That's why it's important to ask these questions, part of every performance-based interview. Yeah, how many people out there get rehired? That would have to be a good thing. I know I've switched around. I've gone through different programs, and man, my reputation was really important. I think people can't underestimate reputation. I know in the moment, perhaps when you're with coworkers, you want to yell at them or you want to do whatever, but you got to keep your reputation. You got to keep that very professional. And finally, the last one says 360 degrees of team growth, 360-degree team growth. As part of the work history review, I asked candidates to prepare a work chart listing all of the major teams the person participating on at each past company. As part of this, I also find out who was on the team, how the person got on the team, and his or her major role. Participating in expanding cross-functional teams with exposure to senior-level executives is a strong indicator of the achiever pattern. Wow. Yeah, obviously you want to be a 360-degree team grower. I wonder if it seems like this is pretty high-level article. I know a lot of people, when they first get hired, the job candidates, they're looking for talent too. Maybe even in the interview, there's like, what teams did you work on? Who were the key players? They want to know if you're the key player or if there were other key players that, so like, should I be calling those top people? That's actually a pretty good kind of like way of looking at it, actually. I was listening to, I think, the Startup podcast, and they were talking about the one by Paul Graham, the Y Combinator guy. They were talking about how, I think Facebook, when Facebook first hires people, they try to get everybody in their network. They go deep and try to find every single person because they're just skimming. They're like looking for the talent. They're just trying to find anybody who's talented. So it's just interesting. But that was that. That was, what's crazy about this whole article is like, they made it look cool. Like they had this little picture. It says surveillance, propaganda, conspiracy, liberty, Big Brother. This guy didn't talk shit about Big Brother. There was no, and this was all just straightforward. LinkedIn, take some risks. There was nothing risky about it. Whatever. I mean, this is just my opinion. But the influencer, performance-based hiring. I mean, he gave really good information. It was really good stuff. But they've got this picture here, and it makes it look like it's this like Illuminati kind of Big Brother shit that's going to come down on us. But you never know. But that, again, it's LinkedIn. They're the best at clickbait. That word clickbait. Oh, man. Oh, I just exited out of the other article that I was going to pull up. But that's, there's a reason for everything. And that was that reason. So here we are at 32 minutes. What am I going to talk about for the next 20 minutes? Well, how about what's going on in DC right now? The cold weather. This sucks. I feel like I'm missing out on a lot of opportunities. Saturday night, I didn't even go out. And Saturday night was Valentine's Day. The best time to meet single ladies, if you want to meet the single ladies while they're in that desperate, cold, Christmas is already over kind of way. The holidays are over. It's Valentine's Day and you're still single. I don't know what it is. There's always something in the air at this time. And I've talked to the CEO of a major speed dating company in this area I think 2 or 3 times about this. And every year, the biggest, they make all their money in January and February, pretty much. And when you think about it, it makes total sense. I play the ukulele. And the reason I'm bringing up this ukulele is, here's the point. I learned this in marketing. You got to go for fear. Fear and pain is what people are trying to alleviate. They're not trying to. So when people are looking at weight loss supplements, they say they focus on the fears, which is sad, like in business. And the reason I say ukulele is because I was given this. I remember early on, I was talking to a mentor, and I was like, I want to do something with the ukulele. I want to make people happy with my ukulele playing. And he laughed. I was laughed at for my ukulele idea because I wanted to just play the ukulele and maybe give ukulele lessons or something, or just make people happy. He's like, there's no money in making people happy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of botching it up, but it would be nice to have ukulele. But in terms of real change and real business, you got to focus on those emotions because people are trying to get away from the tough emotions. And so that's why I think these dating clubs, these dating organizations, Tinder, the Washington, D.C. area just gets packed with people around this time of year, is because this is like the tipping point. It's cold. You're probably like still in debt because of Christmas. You fool for using credit cards. I'm against going into debt, by the way. You probably... Yeah, if you're like me, like I don't like the cold weather. There's some cold-blooded people out there that like cold weather. What bugs me is when people complain about the hot weather, because I'm a warm-blooded person, and they complain about the hot weather, and then they complain about the cold weather. I'll complain about the cold weather, but when it warms up, I'll not say shit about the warm weather. But I continue to digress. So these speed dating organizations make all their money in January and February because that's when everybody's... And nobody's, I don't know how conscious people are of this. It's like one of those things every year. It's like when I first learned about it, I was like, for me, I try to do the thing that people aren't doing to try to make myself like riding on the metro. I usually know where to stand at all the metro stops so that it's counterintuitive enough to where, okay, that's where I'm going to get a seat. And then all these crowds of people, they're all going to flood into this one metro car and they're going to be standing. I've got it down to a little bit of a science where if I don't do what everybody else is doing, I can guarantee that I'll get my seat. Well, the same sort of goes with life. Like everybody at the same time of year, they're all feeling like shit. They're all feeling single and they're all feeling entitled and they all want to just get out of that. And there's some solutions. You know, you can go out to a party. You can go out, like I said, like speed dating is really popular around this time of year because it's so cold and you just want to just meet anybody. And people, I guess for women especially, there's a lot of women that feel like it's a desperate act. I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think going out, I never thought anything was wrong with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with online dating, speed dating, anything like that. But a lot of people some people think it's like, it's not going to work, you know. I don't even know. This is 2015, guys. The people that aren't hip to the modern ways of communicating, you guys are just going to not meet anybody because there's so many people out there that are using these technologies, and you'll just end up like a lot of people here who you'll just end up with like whatever the technology was when you were in your 20s. It's kind of like Chris Rock. He's like, you know, you remember the music that you listened to when you were first getting laid, and that kind of like that's you can either live that life and be that person, or you can just constantly go with the music that keeps growing. Like I said, even though I used to listen to like grunge back in the day, I don't mind the Katy Perry stuff at Super Bowl. Actually, I thought she had some pretty good songs, and I like to listen to modern music. I'll just go through all the phases with music. I just think music is a lifelong thing to enjoy, and it's a really good thing. But, so it's cold out, and I want it to warm up. But those are some just some interesting thoughts about life and about some stuff. And I don't care. If you disagree, fine. That's your prerogative. If you don't think I'm resonating with your personal life. But let me ask you, is that an identity thing that you're thinking? Are you disagreeing because you don't feel it molds with? Then it's just confirming what I was just saying, because I was thinking like I said, if you grew up in your teens and 20s thinking, well, this new technology is not going to be for me. Like I think about this. Like I remember in high school, I used to play in a rock band, and my fellow bandmates were highly against digital technology. It had to be analog. Everything had to be recorded on analog. And they not only that, but they were really into like kind of there's a good word for it, fringe music, I guess. And talking to them, you would think that the fringe music was going to be the next big thing that everybody in the world liked, but no, fringe just kind of stayed fringe. And long story short, here we are today. Everything's digital. Everybody's using the digital thing. Just because it doesn't mean that it's not real. Like when I see these page likes, that's why I thank people at the very beginning, because I know those are human beings. That's not that page like is not unless it's a robot. I guess people will I guess it could just be robots that are liking my Facebook page, That'd be interesting too. Do these robots that are liking my Facebook, are they conscious? I don't know. But yeah, I think that most of these people are real people, and I trust they're real people. The emails I'm getting, I got to look through. I have like 5 new emails. So this podcast is on the growth phase. Go through the emails written by real people. Start doing reviews. But it's just, I hope that this gave some people things to think about, like the deflagrate word and, staying warm. And big data. So we talked about, big data and staying warm and stuff like that. Here we are at 41 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and close off this this podcast. It's been good. Isn't that cool how I can keep talking? Like this is actually live. And let me turn up the music. Yeah. Don't forget to subscribe to the totallyhooked.net podcast. You can join myself, Frank Howard, on totallyhooked.net. The best thing to do is just go to iTunes, load the podcasting app, and subscribe to Totally Hooked Podcast. Everybody have a beautiful, beautiful day.